Was the lost civilization of Atlantis known to almost all the ancient cultures from all around the world? My name is Alexander, and today we are going to talk about several different versions of the story of the lost land and civilization of Atlantis, which are from almost all the ancient cultures of our globe. Apart from being isolated from each other, all of those cultures preserved almost the identical story of the lost civilization, which sank about 9600 BC during the end of the last ice age. If you want some more details about this distant epoch of the end of the last ice age, I've got another video which you can find a link in the description below about the meltwater glaciers and the Atlantis and the 9600 BC epoch itself. But when it comes to the Atlantis, we first hear of it from the Greek philosopher Plato in his two dialogues, Timaeus and Critias. He describes Atlantis as a lost civilization, lost country, an island on the Atlantic Ocean which sank about 9600 BC. As I mentioned before, this epoch is the end of the last ice age, during which the glaciers melt, and because of that the water levels have risen about 120 meters. So we shouldn't be surprised that this lost civilization, this lost island, was sunk during this crucial time in our history. And as we see, this story may be really valid and may be actually factual, not a mere fiction, because as we see, this date really correlates to the real global changing events of this lost distant epoch. But when it comes to the other cultures who preserved almost identical stories, first we have to mention the Aztecs of the New World, which as we see are totally isolated not only by several thousands of kilometers apart, but also are isolated by the time periods from the Greek philosopher Plato, but actually preserve the same information about the lost civilization, which they called Aztlan or Atitlan, which as we see is very etymologically connected to the Atlantis. Atlantis, Aztlan, Atitlan. And actually, according to the Aztecs, the Aztlan or Atitlan was also located on the Atlantic Ocean and sank between 8000 and 10,000 years BC. So as we see, the time period, apart from being a very long time, is actually almost identical to that identified by Plato. And actually, we have to mention that the end of the last ice age wasn't that abrupt. It was abrupt from a geological point of view because it lasted just as a few hundred of years, but actually this lost land could have been sinking for several hundred years. So we shouldn't be surprised that the Aztecs preserved the information about those very long time spans. And also, the Aztecs call this land the White Land, which is also similar to the description of Plato. Another stories which are also etymologically connected is the Atlaintika of the Basques from the Pyrenees and the Attala of the Berber tribes of North Africa. As we see, all of those names describing this lost continent of the Atlantic Ocean have the same etymological meanings, right? The Atlantis, the Aztlan, the Atitlan, the Atlaintika, and the Attala. And as we see, this may be not a mere coincidence because, for example, the Aztecs were totally isolated from the cultures of the old world, from the Greeks, from the Berbers, or from the Basques, right? So, as we see, the story of Atlantis may be an actual fact, And as we see, it was described and the memory of it was preserved throughout several different ancient cultures. I would also like to announce to you that during this autumn, I am publishing my first book concerning these lost civilizations, the end of the last Ice Age, which ended quite abruptly and most probably catastrophically, and the lost ancient high-tech and wisdom. And my book is called Déjà Vu, Has Everything Already Been? So if you're interested in more details of it and want the actual date of the publication, which will be known soon, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, on which you will find several very interesting information about lost civilization, the ancient history, and several other controversial topics. And on it you can find also more detailed videos concerning, for example, the mentioned last ice age of the 9600 BC and many others. That's all for today. Thank you for your attention and to the next video. Bye.